This podcast is brought to you in association with From Sweden with Love, one of the oldest fan sites dedicated to the world of 007. Online since 2004 and also on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Why not check them out today? JamesBond007.se. Nobody does it better. Or as they say in Stockholm these days, ingen gör det bättre.
Every film every stunt every story Ever heard of Evel Knievel? Welcome to the YouTube series. I'm John Orty. I'm a stunt historian, author, broadcaster and producer, and I'm the man behind the stunts on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Welcome to this series of YouTube shorts dedicated to the action and stunts in the James Bond films. My new book, Ever Heard of Evel Knievel, is the definitive guide to everything action-packed in the film franchise. The coordinators, the stories behind these incredible moments, all captured on film. We'll talk through some of those great stunt sequences and a few you may have missed along the way. So buckle up, you could be in for a bumpy ride. The book, podcast and YouTube series are also to be used as educational tools to learn from and to wonder at. Hello and welcome to this week's look at James Bond in action in the film series. And you find us in 1963 with From Russia with Love. We've left the heat of Jamaica behind us and we are up to our necks in Cold War. Stunt coordinator for this picture is Peter Perkins, and for many years fans of the series have questioned his involvement. Why wasn't Bob Simmons in charge? Well, it's a very good question. I can't rule out his involvement in the filming, but Peter Perkins was brought in to replace Simmons. Now, that's just plain and simple fact. Many stunt performers who worked on the picture at the time have said that they spoke to Bob or they worked alongside him, but he most definitely did not double Sean Connery in that famous train fight. So let's start by exploring some of the action sequences, and we're going to start with the death of Krylenko, who was played by stuntman Fred Haggerty. Fred Haggerty as Krylenko is an excellent piece of casting by stunt coordinator Peter Perkins. He not only is a fine stuntman, but he's also a very good actor, and just about to prove his worth in both areas here. As he climbs out of Anita Ekberg's mouth and unrolls the rope, he's unaware that Karim Bey is taking aim. The fall is tricky, as he's got a very short space of time to turn, react, and then roll up and turn over in order to hit the very small landing space that's been afforded him down below. Little box rig covered with a small tarpaulin. It's just enough. You can just catch it in the bottom of shot, but nevertheless a tricky fall. And proof, if ever proof were needed, that
she should have kept her mouth shut.
There is the first part of that action, which is Fred Haggerty falling to his death. Now, let's move on to the train fight. Let's look at it, let's explore it, and let's work out a couple of myths and show you stuff that maybe you haven't seen before. Here we go. So let's take a look at the train fight, and this is one of the best fights not only in the series but possibly in cinema. The case is opened and the fight begins. Connery is doubled by Peter Perkins. He's not doubled by Bob Simmons. This is Peter Perkins. The light is shot out, which makes editing much simpler, obviously, with Peter Hunt. Robert Shaw is doubled by Jack Cooper. Again, another terrific double. All of these movements are captured on 3 cameras with 3 separate takes. One with both actors, the second with both stuntmen, and the third is for pickup shots primarily, and a large proportion of those are with Connery fighting Jack Cooper. Obviously, Terence liked what had happened during that particular take. The reaction was better from Jack Cooper, and he's asked them then to recreate that with the actor. And all of these movements, with that fast editing style that Peter Hunt has, makes for an extraordinary sequence. Again, small spaces. This is all worked out in advance. That's very clearly there. That's Jack Cooper. Look, the hair's very different, but he's covering the face. It's enough there to get away with him in shot with Connery, and then this final sequence. But the train compartment itself is very small, and there's a lot of movement going on, a lot of that choreography all worked out beforehand, so everybody knows where they're going. The stuntmen will have taken the actors through the sequence, shot by punch, so everybody knows exactly where they're supposed to be. Finding the knife here, they've now got the tools out in the special case. There's the knife, and then he throws the knife into Shaw's arm. There we go. And then does the switcheroo. But it's still one of the great fights of cinema. There's no doubt about that. It's not just the greatest in the series, but as a fight stands in cinema, that's pretty good. It's right up there, and a wonderful example. So just to recap on what we're saying, here is the only time in the picture where you've got Perkins and Cooper together in the edit. That's Peter Perkins on the right, doubling Connery, Jack Cooper on the left, doubling Robert Shaw, and kicks him through the door. That moment there, that's the only time in this particular edit that you see. Cooper comes racing back, and this is Sean Connery. Connery now thrown back against the carriage wall and down onto the chair. So I just thought we'd take a closer look at the doubling. This is Connery, and this is Jack Cooper on the floor together. It kicks him to the door. Let's have a look at this closely again, because I say this is the time when Connery and Cooper are together. That's Connery being thrown to the chair there, to the seat, with Cooper on top of him. They then roll off onto the floor again, just Jack Cooper and Sean Connery. They switch positions while on the floor, turning. Now he's going to hit him with both fists on top of the head. In it comes, bang, gets in there, and that is the only time you see Jack Cooper in full in the entire fight. Punch comes in, and he hits. Actually, he misses, but it's well delivered, and Robert Shaw then reacts accordingly. He goes back, and then Connery comes back into shot, and now the edit, and that's Jack Cooper again. So a great proportion of this fight is done with Jack Cooper and Sean Connery. Hits in there and falls back onto the drugged Miss Titania. And finally today, we're going to take a look at some of the action scenes from the boat chase, in particular the fire scenes. Here are 2 very good examples of Peter Perkins getting decidedly hot under the collar. So if we take a look at this, they come in together, there's an explosion, and the guy bails over the side, right? Have another look. They're coming in closely together. There's going to be a triggered explosion, but he reaches over to grab the thing, and bang, there's the look at him. He's completely covered from head to foot. I think that explosion took him completely by surprise. I don't believe for a moment that was intended to be that big. And his hand is still ablaze. He's trying to put his hand out. The rest of his clothes, the breeze is blowing everywhere. It's blown around in front of him. What's he decided to do? Well, he's done probably the decent thing, and he's bailed, and you can't blame him. Here's the second gag, and Peter Perkins is doubling for Walter Gotel. he catches a light there and has to bail off the side of the boat. Now, look, it's a partial body burn, but it's 1963, so the safety precautions that they had now, they're not really available back then. There would have been some form of protective gel, but it certainly wouldn't have been strong enough for him to last any long period of time, which is why he's having to get off maybe as quickly as he can, or just when it starts to get warm, go, and then land in the water there to make absolutely certain. But still, back then, a very, very exciting looking scene. So there we are. That's your lot for this week. More next week. And don't forget to subscribe and follow Behind the Stunts on all the social media platforms so you can be kept up to date on the world of action and stunts. Until next time, bye for now.